wish I was that guy in the background. Hey! How cool would that be? It could be telling people, hey, ever hear, can you hear me knocking by the stone? That guy yelling, hey, that's me.
Yeah, you got satin shoes.
It's a wild Wednesday. It's the Jeff Dubay Show. 20,000 listens strong. And a new sponsor, a couple of new sponsors. We are live at Burger Mo's. We're going to be talking wild hockey in the wake of a really disappointing home loss last night. Their first home loss. They got down 4-1 to the Pittsburgh Penguins. I believe two of my cohorts were either in attendance or at least watching. He was in attendance, but I'm not sure he was sober. He being Scott Schweitz because it's his birthday, and he was just tying one on. Tony, I don't know if you were in there in person or watching on TV, but I know you saw every grueling second of it. But before we tee it off, I want to just take a quick 60-second break. You know, folks who've listened to the show, they know that I lived in the Uptown area here, right down Pleasant Avenue, as a matter of fact, and on the corner of Pleasant Lake is where Uptown Pond is. And I have been here numerous times, had numerous business dealings with them. It's just a nice place with good, honest people. Bob Jacobson, the owner, you run the place. You've always been good to me.
Thanks, Jeff. We try. That's part of our business. We're here to help people, and so everybody walks in the door. We hope we can help.
Well, what I've always appreciated is when people are nice to people who are the low man on the totem pole. Like when I was a bat boy, I like the star guys who are nice to the bat boy. Right. And I mean, I came in here and you guys didn't know who I was. You didn't know I had a radio show, and you treated me great. I mean, just a guy off the street.
Listen, that's the idea with I think a smaller family type business. Somebody walks in the door, we don't want to let them see everybody gets treated the same way, and we hope that's the case. And we don't want to see them leave without. We try our very best.
It's really easy. It's easy. It's low pressure. Good, honest people. Right in the corner of Lake Street and Pleasant Avenue. You guys got to check out Uptown Pond. So not only Burger Mo's aboard, but our good friends at Uptown Pond, Lake and Pleasant. Check them out. Always just a nice, easy experience. And I tell you what, I've done a ton of business there, and they've always been treated well. So now to the matter at hand, the Minnesota Wild in their first home loss. They go down 4-1 to the Penguins, and it just to steal some of the mojo out of the locker room post game. I mean, guys were just saying basically Pittsburgh played our game better, and we played our game.
Well, they played their game better for one, but they also came out flat. I mean, they didn't take advantage of what they've taken advantage of all year is the electricity in their home ice. I mean, their tagline this year is the home of the home ice advantage, and they didn't take advantage of it at all until they woke up in the third. And the game really could have turned around if the controversial goal would have counted. It would have been Penguins up 3-2 with about 3.5 minutes left, some momentum shift, but then that goal was disallowed, and it was over after that.
To call that goalie interference and not even give them an opportunity to take a look at it is kind of a wild thing to have happen. I think this fan base gets accused of complaining about the referees and complaining about their team getting jobbed a lot. I get accused of that a lot on Twitter, but to take away the opportunity for that goal to count, I think not only are you killing momentum, but you're taking a game away from a team that's fighting to get back into it. The Eastern Conference teams that the Wild have played this year, there's been a lot of feeling out period. I think that first period there was a lot of just kind of measuring and probing, and it seemed like there was a lot of lost time. There wasn't many shots, there wasn't many opportunities, and then you see the second, the Wild's pressing, the Wild's getting an extended offensive possession, and then Dumba doesn't get it out, and they score a third-line goal from guys that, that's been the Wild's calling card, is getting secondary scoring from the third and fourth line and beating teams that way.
Well, before the show started, Scott was digging through some numbers. 11 giveaways for the Wild, 1 for Pittsburgh. The one for Pittsburgh tells me we didn't forecheck too well. I mean, but they got some defensemen that can get to the puck and move it quickly. I mean, Letang, Martin. I mean, they got some guys who could keep a team from setting up a forecheck. But nonetheless,
you got to remember too, we were also missing a key part of our defense, which is Spurgeon. I mean, he's an unsung hero, I think, on this team, and does not get the credit that he deserves. So you combine that with also, Vanek had a very poor night as far as giveaways. I mean, he had one where there was, a matter of 2 in a shift that really was glaring. And if he was scoring and contributing on the offense, nobody would notice his kind of two-way deficiency. But the fact that he's not, I mean, it's going to come out more and more and more. And I mean, people are calling him Heatley 2.0. But I mean, if he doesn't have the defensive responsibilities, it's going to get worse.
That was a tough game for Prosser. Prosser's had 2 back-to-back tough games. He was not good against the Stars in a win, and he was definitely not good against Pittsburgh. And that shows, if you're missing Spurgeon for extended periods of time, that's kind of the trickle-down effect. The top 4 was Spurgeon in there, Brodeen healthy, Suter and Scandella, who have been the anchors for the top 2 pairs. That is really a strength of this team. And going forward, you're going to need both of the kids to step up. You have to get some contribution from Matthew Dumba, and he has to contribute offense, because that's going to be the thing that makes him a difference maker, especially if they're going to play him on the third pair. They're playing Christian Foline right now with Scandella on the second pair, and he's a kid that I like, but he's a kid that's not going to do a ton to jump off the screen at you. He's going to be pretty consistent. He's going to be strong in his own end. He can be strong with the puck, and he can separate the opponents from the puck, and he can get it going the other way. But you're not going to get what you got from Spurgeon out of him. And so the forward lines, they need to start generating more opportunities.
Well, and you talked about Spurgeon, and one of the things that I believe Pominville was talking about post-game locker room was that Pittsburgh's getting pucks behind our D and getting on them. That's what Spurgeon does. He gets to it and he moves it.
Well, you need good defensemen to quarterback your offense. I mean, you need to have good breakout and good offensive defensemen that can, not only break out but drive the zone if they need to take it themselves. Like we've seen earlier in the season with a Scandella, with a Spurgeon, with a Dumba. I mean, all of them have the ability to take it on their own and rush the puck into the zone. And then break it off to a forward. But if you have those injuries, and even Jonas Brodeen coming back from an injury, looks like early in the game he re-injured or had a separate injury to his hand, so he's playing hurt. The team, it's kind of been like a league-wide thing with teams having a great number of injuries, and we finally kind of hit our injury bug. We had our illness bug before, which I think we could probably credit the West Coast teams or locker rooms or whatever sort of illness or bacteria
special fungus
going through that hit the Blues too. But as far as injuries go, we lost Parisi last night. I mean, he's not going on the road trip. It looks like his injury was either from he got mowed over in the first period, and he also got cross-checked in the second in front of the goal, and that resulted in a penalty. But he's getting cross-checked across the numbers, and he went down pretty hard.
Yeah, and he did not come out for the third, correct?
Did not come out for the third, and it's an upper body injury. They don't talk about it. They were pretty quiet and pretty reserved on what the injury was. So now we have 3 guys that didn't go on that road trip.
Yeah.
Well, and it's easy to know that obviously it's a serious injury because Zach Parisi is going to play.
Yep.
You can rip half of his face off in a game and he'll come back. So
if there's any opportunity for him,
depends
to play.
on which half, but yeah.
A lot of that loss, it looked like they were a team that started very hot and they caught another good team. I mean, that Penguins team has size and skill. I mean, their top 6 has played together for a long time. I mean, Crosby and Kunitz gel perfectly. Pascal Dupuis is a former Wild player, and he fits into their system. They added Hornquist, who's a big guy, and he just pounds on the Wild. Even when he was in Nashville, he shoots the puck a bunch, and then that's the number 1 power play in the league.
And you can see why.
Yeah.
Wow.
Malkin slaps a shot at the net. It hits a guy.
It was 11 seconds into the power play.
It elevates over the goalie's shoulder, and they look like geniuses. And then, the Wild power play, they pass the puck around a bunch. Nobody shoots the puck, and then Wild fans...
And we bitch about it every week.
Bitch about it.
Well, I mean, I don't think last night was indicative of what this team is. I think it was just an off night.
Right.
We've seen it before.
You play 80.
I think they're gonna come back.
Was it Tampa Bay-esque when they came here? Was it kind of that? I mean, Tampa Bay is a good team, right? But they did not seem to play very well here. Was that kind of how the Wild was playing against Pittsburgh? Just up against another good team and just didn't show up that night?
Sure, and it's the tail end. The other thing, Saturday was a huge night. Saturday was Jack Jablonski, Foundation, Stick Tap. It was Dallas Stars in here. The Dallas Stars came in here, and there was a lot of just Bush League, just unbelievable. Their captain took a 2-handed swing with his stick and caught Jason Zucker. I thought he caught him in the face. He caught him in the
It was
midsection.
the rib, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It looked
hit him
mean. He
in
went down
right in the
hard.
stomach. Yeah,
I was in the building, though. I was literally 20 feet away from it, and there was no reason for it to happen. It's not like Jason Zucker did anything chippy. He picked his pocket, and the guy spins around blind and takes a swing at him, and that's their captain. And there was other stuff that whole night, and the Wild didn't respond. They scored a bunch of goals. It was a huge night. The Dallas Stars are a team that they're connected to, even though the connections are pretty much gone now. It's a new ownership group. Madonna's not there anymore, and so I think that they were due for a letdown game, and I think that's what the game against the Penguins was. It was a letdown game. I like the way that they responded in the third period, and that's one of the things about this team. They went out to the East Coast and they responded when they needed to. They had a letdown in New York. I expect them to come back out against Ottawa, and you're going to need some guys to step up. You're going to need Zucker to step up. I thought Howell and Nino Niederreiter did not play well against the Penguins.
Nino was frustrated. I mean, you saw. I mean, you might have not saw on TV, but there was one point where he
broke a stick.
It broke a stick over the boards and slammed the door. I mean, you could see he was evidently upset.
Sure.
And I mean, he's a competitor. I mean, when he scored the shorty in the third, I mean, you could see that when the momentum was kind of coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be honest. I mean, it's a 4-1 loss, but it very well could have been a 3-2 loss. I mean,
Well,
it would
that's the thing.
have been a completely different, from a visual perspective of what the score looks like.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
not to
eye
mention,
test-wise.
well, that goal. I mean, that's what I was just going to throw out there. Was this? Thank you very much. Was this a completely out of the blue flat game, or was this Boston and San Jose -1 goal? I mean, there was the same. Was it not the same game as Boston or San Jose? If Koivu scores, I'm not going to say it's a 3-2 final. I mean, who's to say that Sydney has to get to it overtime?
It's different. I mean, I would say just that they weren't playing extremely strong in the first couple periods. I think for 40 minutes of that game, they didn't have the Minnesota Wild-esque stuff. I mean, they didn't have that drive or that grit that they kind of bring to the table. To your point about Tampa Bay, I mean, they are directly behind Pittsburgh in the standings.
Yeah.
So they came here and we destroyed them, but they're a fabulous team. So
any given-
everybody can
well,
have
not
an off,
Sunday,
everybody can have an
this
off
week.
night. I mean, I think last night Chicago blanked the Canadiens.
Yeah.
I mean,
That was
everybody has them. I mean, they have off nights, but we're dealing with some injuries. Let's see what happens tomorrow night when they're up at the Senators.
Well, Tony, you were pimping Tampa last week. Well, we were throwing out who's the power in the East, and you throw out Tampa.
And the reason I would throw out Tampa is just because I think that they have a very good mix. I think that this Minnesota Wild team has a very good mix. What you try to do, especially in the salary cap era, is you try to mix a veteran core with young players that will come of age and be ready to contribute at the NHL level. I think Tampa Bay has that all throughout their lineup. I think the Wild has that all throughout their lineup. The Penguins have superstars, and the reason that they have superstars is because they picked first in the draft a couple years, which the Wild has never done, and that speaks to the build of this hockey team. I wouldn't compare the Pittsburgh game to L.A. and Anaheim because I think L.A. and Anaheim, that game got stolen by the goalies, and the Minnesota Wild dominated.
Right.
I would say that the game last night was more about two teams that are both kind of banged up. They came into it a little bit apprehensive of each other, and then I don't know. The Penguins got lucky.
Speaking of goalies stealing it, though, did Kemper give it away a little last night? At least one of those goals didn't look like he was. He doesn't look like he's in top shape. Period. He's the biggest question mark to start the season was goaltending, and it continues to be in my mind. What do you guys think?
Well, once again, we put up way more shots on the Penguins than they put up on us. So
Yeah.
I mean, if this is going to be a common theme where we're limited into 20 shots a night, then Kemper has to be better. Kemper, Backstrom, whoever's in there has to be better, and they can't be giving up three goals. I mean,
But other games, it didn't seem like it was Kemper's fault. Last night, it looked.
He folded
it
up
didn't
pretty
look too
good against New York, I thought.
That's true. That's true. Once he got that big lead, he did, or the 3-0 lead, right?
Things came in on him fast. I mean, he's weird. He's weird. I mean, I think any problem he has is between his ears. I mean,
It's always mental.
Yeah.
I mean, he's big and he's talented. I mean, I don't think there's anything physically that you would change about the guy in terms of skill, technique. I think it's just sometimes he just folds up.
Sure, and if you ask me to explain it, so before the season, I'm a Kemper guy. I always admit that. I think Kemper has genius moments, and I think Kemper has what was at moments. And Kemper didn't get helped out very much on the first goal. There's a lot of reaching. They find a guy wide open, scores a goal. There a lot of that in the New York game. Second goal, or I think it was the Sutter goal. They come down in an odd man rush, and he scores from he scores from the boards or the wing, and he puts it past the blocker, and Kemper didn't touch it at all. I put that goal on Kemper. Kemper's got to square up to the shot. Kemper's got to make that save. Even the announcers, LaPanta and Greenlay, they're like, we don't see many guys score from there.
Unless it's a one-timer.
Yeah, Sutter tucks it under his blocker. I think Kemper has those goals. I think if you look at guys like Quick, if you look at the best goalies in the league, Pecorine in Nashville is carrying that team. I don't think Kemper's at that level yet, but I think Kemper trusts that top four when they're healthy. And when you're missing Jared Spurgeon, that just equals more opportunity. And Jared Spurgeon is maybe the best two-way defenseman in the lineup, especially given that Ryan Suter's playing more minutes now. And Ryan Suter plays more minutes. He has more plays where he doesn't do enough, and that's what we saw in New York. He's reaching, he doesn't get to the guy, they flip it out front, we get a game stolen from us by the Rangers.
And I think that Kemper has all the raw attributes of a great goaltender. I mean, he's got size, he's got agility, he squares up to the puck really well. He's young. I mean, he's 21, 22 years old.
20. I think he's 24, but
he looks 17.
Yeah, he looks 17, and he doesn't have a full season under his belt.
Is he going to do Movember? That'll be a little awkward. But just wait. I mean, he's going to develop, and I think that as we said in earlier weeks, it was always that it was supposed to be a transition from Backstrom, to him, and have that kind of a handoff. He's ahead of schedule, and I think because of injuries, other attributes, the Harding situation, he maybe was put into the spotlight earlier than he should have. That being said, this gives Backstrom a chance to come back in, give him a break, and maybe we'll see him in the. Yeah, I'd say it depending on how Backstrom does. I mean, at latest he'll be in against the Devils.
It's a Wild Wednesday on the Jeff Dubay Show. Scott Schweitz, Jason McGovern, Tony Dean, and myself talking Wild hockey. We're at Burger Moe's, where if you come on in here and check in, they're going to check in by social media. They're going to get you a $1 off your burger and a $2.50 Bud Light. So fine deals to be had by all. Come on down, check in, have a good time. I wasn't planning on eating, but this giant picture of this cheeseburger on the wall, I mean, I can't stop looking at it. I mean, by the time we get to the end of the show here, I'm going to be knee-deep in one, I think.
I do have to mention, too, that Surly Darkness is on tap here, and that is a beer that people will call bars and ask if you have before they go out. Okay. So Surly Darkness is on tap at Burger Moe's.
Nice.
Come on down.
Nice. Hey, one guy I want to talk about quickly before we completely move on from last night's game, just because he's one of us, and he's always kind of intrigued me as a player, is Paul Martin, because he's the best defenseman you never notice. I mean, he's not flashy. He doesn't go end to end. He doesn't do anything. He's not Letang in terms of flash or style. But I don't know if the guy's ever made a mistake. I mean, he's just if a novice, not that I'm an expert, but if a complete novice hockey fan watches the game, they're not going to notice Paul Martin.
Well, there's two different kinds of defensemen. There's a kind of defenseman you don't notice because they don't do anything wrong, and it's kind of like Suter qualities.
Yeah, Suter, I call him Suter light. Suter's Lidstrom light.
Suter basically is. I mean, they're guys you don't notice because they do everything right, but they don't do anything that's like Letang or like a PK Subban, where people are. I mean, they're very, very flashy defensemen. But there's both kinds of defensemen. You have the offensive-minded ones, and you have the stay-at-home defensemen that are clearing up the front of the net, that are doing the right plays. And if you don't notice them, they had a good night.
Well, and league-wide, he gets a lot of respect.
Sure. And Martin plays on a team that is loaded with, top-end, superstar, all-world talent. So he always ends up being a guy that people mention because of the contract number or because he does the stuff that doesn't drive hockey fans wild. He's not going to be a Subban. He's not going to be a huge hit, score a goal, go end-to-end guy, and capture the imagination. He's going to be a guy that is the calming influence and never creates a turnover. And he does so much of the stuff right that it translates to victories. And I think that a lot of Wild fans have envisioned Paul Martin coming home and being a part of whatever trade that's being talked about over the past couple of years. But the Pittsburgh Penguins would be crazy to get rid of him.
Isn't he? I think he's up next year. Is he up for contract? I think next year. I think he might be. But anybody who's on that team, I mean, Cindy Crosby, he's gonna be, and I call him Cindy because I don't like him, because I think he's a little girl, and I think he dives all the time.
Except for he might be like the best player in hockey.
No, he's fabulous. And I mean,
so at that point,
but let's be honest.
But he's also a little bitch, is he not? I mean, he's the type that he likes to go after guys that are smaller than him, and if anybody comes after him, he runs away.
I think from on his throne, he doesn't care about your
Well,
opinion.
Are you serious? Really? You doesn't value Jason McGovern's hockey mind? I'm shocked.
I'm saying even like guys out there on the ice looking to pull his jersey over his head, doesn't care about their opinion.
Yeah.
Not interested.
No, but you have to be honest. Like the NHL has his back. He is the face of the NHL. So
Especially after the concussions.
whether it's
Jesus.
intended or not, he is 100%. Put in a little bit of a little cradle by the NFL or the NHL.
Well,
they are protecting him. They are protecting the face of their league, and they don't want anything to happen. I mean, he already had his teeth knocked out, so they definitely want to protect his face.
And he's had his head mashed for years.
Yeah, and the concussion thing though. It's a butterfly effect. When you have a guy that's the face of your sport, and you lose him to concussions, then concussions becomes an issue that's right there on the forefront. So I don't know, and I think we can talk about every superstar from different teams. I've went on the Twitter rant about Jamie Benn. Jamie Benn also is a guy that I give credit for him and Tyler Seguin being maybe the best combo in the Western Conference. He comes out here, he's two-handing, slashing sucker. He's doing all types of craziness. And he's the captain. He's the face of their franchise. And I'm losing my mind. NFL player safety department never addresses the two-handed slash. And there's video. I mean, nowadays, you get away with nothing because everybody has access to the footage. Everybody has access to the things that you did, and everything's premeditated. Everything's like just an outrage. So, it's just star players will be treated differently.
It's no different than Landeskog. When we played him, I mean, he's a captain on the team. He gets away with stuff just because he's the captain. And if you're coddled a little bit and they kind of leave you alone, I mean, they're not doing themselves any service in player safety by hiring on like former players that were offenders. I mean
Chris Pronger.
Yeah, I mean you're gonna have
Well, Shanahan was the first.
constant ridicule about like, oh, they're now that they're there, they know what people do to.
That was unbelievable.
I mean, when you're getting away with this stuff,
to come back.
I mean, it's like getting Dahmer to be a judge. I mean, it's just
he's not alive anymore.
no. Just
That'd be even scarier.
Suspend your disbelief for a second. There were a couple other games this past week before the Pittsburgh game since we've been with you last. Well, there's somebody who was really upset about the game last night.
Did we make a kid cry?
I think that's actually Cindy Crosby. He's over there crying.
But let's go back to last Thursday. Since our last show, the San Jose game, the second time in 3 nights that the Wild came back from 2 down in the third period to win a game. I mean, it's quite a week. It's quite a trend.
The San Jose game I was at, that was a good game. I mean, I enjoyed it. But I did feel that I'm like, here we go again. I'm like, we're down.
Sure.
I'm like, are we coming back? And then they bring it. They do the dry scrape, and they get to OT. And Palmer puts in that nice goal. I was wondering if who they were going to go with, and that the people that don't know the Koivu backhand.
That's the one movie.
That is so nasty. It is.
It is. But
it's just how goalies should just stand there and try to do this. You can't see me over the airwaves, but I'm moving my arm. But literally, it goes the exact same place every time.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when he first started getting opportunities in shootouts years ago. I mean, he would just rip these backhanders. He scored his first 4 or 5, and then he started to try to change it up a little, and the percentage started to drop pretty quickly. But when he goes to that backhand, it's still pretty much money. But you'd think these things would be scouted out. I mean, as a matter of fact, I have seen teams with iPads on their bench showing goaltenders shootout moves. I mean, as they go into the shootout.
Well, but I mean, if you have other moves, you can go to. I mean, think of back when Ralston was here. I mean, he'd go to the top of the circle and just rip one.
Yeah. I would laugh. I mean, there were times I just sat there and laughed. It was hilarious.
Wow.
I mean, goalies are ducking. It's like Goldberg. It's like Mighty Ducks.
You look at other teams. You look at Patrick Kane, and he's able to skate in slow motion as he just looks at Nicholas Backstrom and he makes him wilt like a flower. I mean, he just has no shot as he's skating down there slower than I've ever seen anybody skate.
Mm-hmm. But he's the best puck handler in the league.
And then he tucks it in.
I mean, there's a video on YouTube. I mean, go check it out where he is stick handling around like 30 pucks.
Sure.
And he's skating and stick handling, and he doesn't touch any of them.
Yeah.
Like he misses all of them, and so the guy has just magic hands. But if you can do that, sure, you can just dance with the puck, and the goalie's trying to watch you, and then you wait until they dig a move, and you go the other side.
Like you just described why the shootout is the worst thing in sports.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Oh man, any sport that ends in a tie, I just don't want to watch it.
It's an exciting thing.
What a ripoff!
But it's an exciting thing for the fans. But the point system, I think, is what's a ripoff.
Okay, yeah. If you fix the point part of it,
the fact that they brought up the shootout to make the game more exciting, and it is more exciting. I mean, when you have everybody on your feet, and that's why people love penalty shots.
Well, every game should be worth 3 points now.
Yep.
That's
the only way to do it right.
Yes, you can't have some games worth more points than others. It's ridiculous to me that a group of adults, not 5-year-olds, but a group of adults cannot see that every game should have the same value.
Well, and what
it blows my mind.
And what it drives is the fact that if you're close, you'll play for overtime just to make sure you're going to get a point.
So it actually doesn't make it more exciting. Actually,
no,
if you think about it, because it ruins the last 5 minutes of third periods.
Not the game, 100%. I totally agree with that. I almost refuse to watch a game that can end in a tie because why would you want to leave without anything decided? I mean,
they used to do that.
I literally won't go to a soccer game ever. I won't watch a kid's soccer game ever because nobody should not be the winner.
What if your kid plays soccer?
Then I would try to get her to play another sport. Just being honest about it, I would allow her to know that if it ends in a tie, then she should feel exactly.
I cannot believe the NFL actually allows games to end in ties.
It's only because it's so infrequent.
That blows my mind.
That's the only reason that they allow it.
Except for when the Vikings are in it.
Right.
And that goes back to the victim mentality of Minnesota sports fans. And I think that we were all feeling that during the San Jose Sharks game. When they get down to the San Jose Sharks and they're pounding on us and they have all these the big Joe Thorntons and the Pavelskis and they have Bernsey and he's just flying around. He's picking on Granlund and
Hey, side note, just for a second, not to interrupt you, but is there some bad blood between him and Veilleux? I don't know if you saw the game, but
Burns
and Veilleux, it was visibly trying to hit him every chance he could.
And probably, why? Because Burns was beating the crap out of Granlund. He was being a bully. He was taking shots on Granlund, and I even sent a tweet out. I was like, listen, I love Brett Burns. I love everything about this guy, but he needs to stay away from Finnish Jesus because it's so bad for our season. It is so bad for our season for him to be so big, and he needs to stay away. And I think the victim mentality of Minnesota Wild fans, we almost checked out mentally when they got down, and then they came back and did it.
It's a Wild Wednesday on the Jeff Dubay Show back in 60.
Okay, last year, 2013, I lived just down the road, Pleasant Avenue, just a few blocks here from Uptown Pond, which is right on the corner of Lake and Pleasant. And, there are a couple of times, you just try to get to that next payday, maybe a couple of bucks short. If you've got some items, jewelry, diamonds, electronics, you come down here and they give you a fair price for it, and then you come back a week later, 2 weeks later, whatever, you get it back at a real reasonable price.
So we're very competitive, we hope, on different angles, in different ends and different articles. Computers, electronics, TVs, jewelry. We buy, we give loans, and we also have emphasis on diamond jewelry too, that we also try and give credit for the best we can. We're specialists in that area also, so it's an all-round sort of combination.
Well, it's a great place. It's a nice, clean place with honest people, and I tell you what, it's got a real family feel to it. As a matter of fact, it's tied into Strauss family, and I go way back with the late, great Jerry. So, these are people I know and people I trust. You can find them on Twitter, too, by the way. They're at Uptown Pond, and also on Facebook, Uptown Pond, and uptownpond.net.
Thanks to the folks at Uptown Pond for jumping on board and helping make the Jeff Dubay Show possible. Go check them out. You can check them out at Facebook at Uptown Pond and uptownpond.net. And I guess Facebook, you just look for Uptown Pond. It's easy to find. Great place. So back to the week that was. You've mentioned a few things, Tony, about the Stars game, about some extracurriculars. But the bottom line is the Stars are a loaded team, a skilled team, and kind of got it handed to them that night. By the Wild.
And I think what was so interesting about that is I think that they came from the West Coast they had to fly from Anaheim to Minnesota. That was a lot of what the Minnesota Wild schedule used to be when we were in the Northwest Division, which made no sense at all. And they showed up here, and the Wild, not only did we score one power play goal, but we scored 2 power play goals. Bannock gets the first power play goal. Koivu put the puck on his stick in a spot where he could take a shot. It wasn't just a deflection attempt. Suter made a just an amazingly intelligent flip pass to Nino, who deflected one over the goalie's shoulder, and that's a good goalie. Kari Lehtinen, he's also Finnish, so the Finnesotans connection was heavy that night, and he was looking to have a statement game. He was looking to respond, especially since their backup is Anders Lindbach, who's been terrible this year.
Sounds like a beer. I'll have a Lindbach.
Yeah. And he's a big Swede. He's like 6'6". He's the guy that covers the whole goal net. He was like the stunt double for Pecorine in Nashville before they signed him, and he's been brutal this year. And that Stars team has Lindy Ruff. A lot of people were talking about Lindy Ruff coming here to replace Yo when Yo was not in the most stable job situation, and the Wild just outclassed them. They took a lot of little dirty cheap shots after the whistle. They looked to try to get the Wild to engage, and they didn't. You know, the Wild basically they have the mentality scoreboard.
Well, I mean, we need to take those because just like last night, other teams are going to take those games from us when we don't show up. If the other team doesn't show up, you have to capitalize. So, I mean, what goes around comes around as far as those games are concerned. But you just have to be ready to be able to, to get the W when you have the opportunity.
Well, if the team's going to play you like that, you got to score on the power play.
Yeah.
I mean, and they did twice.
And that was a game. That was a game too. The Minnesota Wild went out there and they worked their ass off. Jason Zucker, who is a guy that I've advocated for a long time, just because his speed is difference making, and he can carry the puck and create opportunities for himself that are different from a lot of the players on the roster. You look at this version of Vanek, and this version of Vanek has maybe some of the best set of hands, best hockey IQ of anybody in the NHL, but his skating is a step or too slow, so he gets caught on the breakaway. He doesn't have the windows of opportunity that maybe he previously did, and ultimately his whole career he's scored goals in the dirty areas anyways. So a guy like Jason Zucker on Saturday night was amazing. He got the second star. A little personal thing. He signs a puck, comes out for the 3 stars, and throws it over the glass. And my off-duty supervisor, the wife, fights through the scrum, comes up with the puck. I didn't have to punch anybody in the face. It was a great thing. She's like, "Is this kind of a big deal?" And I was like, "You just pushed 3 kids down the stairs to get this puck. I think you earned it.
Stepped down a kid in a wheelchair. But it's cool.
Yeah. Mostly she's emotional terrorism, but at this point, she brought out the enforcer. She was the Stu Bickle of the scenario.
Oh. No wonder you're afraid of her.
Yes.
So what I'm gonna
Yes. He goes, yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I couldn't have been more sure of that answer.
what I'm gonna be interested to see though is they're moving lines around now. So to kind of to dovetail off that is now we're gonna see Pominville reunited with Vanek on the top line.
Yes.
With Finnish Baby Jesus.
So in spite of Yo, because that's something that we wanted in spite of what Yo wants.
Well, it's by default. I mean, you
Yes.
lose. Who else are you going to put up there? I mean, you're not going to take away from the Koivu, Coyle, and Zucker line, and so you have to plug and play somebody. I mean, could you put Nino up there? Maybe, but I think that Nino by far is more defensively sound than you're going to see with Vanek. And I mean, and truthfully, to see it like Vanek and Pominville reunited, who knows? Maybe it's going to be. Last year-esque where, you have the injury to Koivu and you put Granlund up on the top line and all of a sudden you see some magic happen. So maybe...
And Parise, and being honest about it, Zach Parise wasn't playing his best hockey.
Man, he can play with anybody.
And Zach Parise can play with anybody because he's going to work his ass off. The other thing is, I think Vanek needs to play with a puck carrier. Granlund's that puck carrier. Pominville and Vanek are very complimentary of anybody that they play with because they look to pass first. They can both shoot. I think that they have chemistry back to the Buffalo days. This is a good opportunity, even though it's a terrible thing that Parise's out of the lineup. This is a good opportunity early in the season to see how they play together going on the road when you need to respond to a game like Pittsburgh. It also puts a little bit more pressure on Vanek to come out here and be a focal point because I don't think he's had that pressure, man. Mikko Koivu ends up being the lightning rod for Wild fans because he never shoots the puck. One of the funniest things that came from me joining the Hockey Wilderness podcast the other night is did Thomas Vanek contract no-shoot Ebola from Mikko Koivu? So no-shoot Ebola might be a real thing in Minnesota because Mikko Koivu never shoots a puck besides his 9-shot night.
Well, for a while, Kyle Brodziak gave away his no-score Ebola to somebody else.
Yes, I've been meaning to bring that up with you because the day you ripped him, he comes out and scores.
I was right. It was right in front of me, and it was
I
two
forgot
of them.
about
They
that.
were
beautiful.
They were carbon copy goals. Like both of them were beautiful setups by Vanek, and
Yes,
he was
they
right
were.
there. And I'm like, "Yep, there he is." And then he scored again. I'm like, "This guy's gonna score a hat trick, and I'm gonna have to throw my hat on the ice for this clown." I'm like, damn it!
It was unbelievable. Right after you talked about you sending him to the press box, the next day he went off.
You should have went
Just gorgeous goals. I couldn't believe it.
Hey, but
Man
look at this.
panties
As soon
on
as
the
as
ice.
soon as it came,
You know what
as
you are.
fast as it went, though.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
But
that's
true. But whenever in media, Scott, I got to teach you this. 'Cause you're still new at the media game. When you rip somebody and they light it up, you're the motivator.
I'm pretty sure he had no idea I
Right.
ripped
No,
him.
No,
Definitely you.
Yes,
no, you
always.
are the motivator.
I'm going to take credit for both
You
those
get
goals.
the credit. You are the motivator.
The Jeff Dubay podcast is on in the Wild locker room constantly.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Like, who is
I'm
this
sure it is.
SOB? Like,
Has Vanek not appeared on the show? Has he not sat here
That's true.
and broken
That's
bread
true.
with us?
That's
Absolutely.
true.
By the way, speaking of breaking bread, they just brought some burgers out here. Not for me. Damn it.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
But the smell as they went by, it was so distracting. It was almost like the waitstaff at the Devil's Advocate. I mean, that level of distraction. I mean, the smell of the
And
burgers.
That's very
That's saying
distracting.
something.
That is
I mean,
very
must
distracting.
Must be nice. The executive branch of Wild
Wait,
Wednesdays.
I just saw
to eat.
Bernard eat a taco salad the size of your head like 2 hours ago.
He's got a menu for you there.
Turns out you're number one, Jeff.
The burgers here are fabulous, and so are the bacon cheese tots.
I gotta order a burger.
Bacon cheese tots. I mean, you're going to have to
Are
take a
you
nap after
kidding
you
me?
eat them, but they're so good.
Are you bleeping kidding
You
me?
should order
Bacon
some right
cheese
now.
tots?
Oh, they're so good.
Sean Bernard has just let us know via hand signal
Bacon
that we're
cheese
the
tots.
number one
We're number one.
They're not even on the menu.
Number one
They're not on the menu?
wild podcast
They-
in the
they'll make 'em
network.
for you.
We're doing
Well,
good things.
I'm not going to make them invent something for me.
No, they have bacon cheese fries.
No, it's bacon cheese fries, sub tots. No
Oh, I'd
problem.
rather have
They do it all
fries.
day.
No,
Oh,
no.
yeah, either way.
No.
Whatever you
Really?
want.
I'm not five.
I guarantee you, if you order them, you will not be disappointed.
Gentlemen, can I tell you how appreciative I am to Jeff Dubay and to Sean
Jesus.
Bernard
Get a
and
room.
to Jason McGovern for
All
taking
by
us
myself.
from Minnesota or from Minneapolis to the heart of wild territory
Oh, yeah.
to
Oh,
do
yeah.
the show.
I'm really happy
We are
with
on West 7th right now. We are steps from the Excel Center. This is where hockey lives in St. Paul, and we are doing the show here. I'm so
yeah.
appreciative of
Yeah,
that.
I can't wait for the first game night we're here.
Yep.
It's gonna be a blast, and that is not to take anything away from our other home, Devil's Advocate, which we will be back at on Monday. Jason and I will. You guys are no longer allowed west of the river.
Yeah, screw you
assholes.
guys.
We're banned.
No, but Jason and I will be back at Devil's Advocate on Monday, and we'll be there again on Tuesday. And we'll be glad to be as glad as we're to be here at Burger Mo's on Wednesdays for a Wild Wednesday. I mean, it's a Wild Wednesday. We should be on West 7th, right next to the X. This was more than commonsensical, and shocks me that Jason McGovern came up with it. But it's
I have an idea like once a year, I swear. At least one.
But you got it. You have a connection to this place. I mean, you work here.
I've been working here for 4 years. Yeah.
Oh, well,
Basically, almost since I got out of radio, I've been working here to pay the bills.
and they didn't fire you when you grew that mustache, huh? I mean,
The mustache is new, by the
That-
way.
that
yeah, that's what I'm saying. They should have fired you right away.
That mustache,
Right away.
top shelf.
Hey, the first
Top shelf.
the first game,
Well, if the top shelf is, you mean the shelf where you had your porn stash? Yeah, that's top shelf.
first Wednesday game is going to be versus the Kings the night before Thanksgiving.
Oh my
And-
God! Is it going to be a little
and-
raucous
Oh
down
yeah,
here?
and that's always
That's
the night
the
that people,
craziest
that people
game.
go out and
Yep.
just tie one on.
Yep.
Oh my God!
That's
And-
actually one of the biggest party nights of the year.
Yes, it is. It
I will
absolutely
be
is.
here for Wild Wednesdays, and then I will be at the game tying one on.
So,
Perfect. Well, I mean, again, this is not FCC regulated. We're on the internet.
Well, no, and my Thursday show at O'Gara's is really going to suffer from that one. But
Does
sorry,
that mean,
O'Gara's.
does that mean are you going to be tying one on during the show? Is that going to add some color?
I'd say we do. Let's go. Nah.
Well, we could do the Venus flytrap Johnny Fever thing. Oh, you're not going to get any WKRP references, are you? Where they get drunk and test the reflexes? No, nobody.
We have to have
I know
guests
what it
over
is.
50 for that one.
no,
See,
no,
yeah,
no.
there's
The second time this week, a WKRP reference just went right.
Is that WKRB in Cincinnati?
Yes.
Yeah.
You never saw Dr. Johnny Fever? Like, he was like super slow, and then they got him hammered, and he was like lightning fast, and the cop was getting all pissed.
I'm old enough
The
to
law
know.
enforcement officer was getting
I'm
We're all
old enough
aware
to
of
know,
it.
I'm old enough to know that was Les Nessman, right? No?
That was
So
a
you're
different
not
Wasn't he the
old
weather
enough to
guy?
know.
Was it?
Yeah, but it was a different episode.
But I'm saying, I'm old enough to know that Les Nessman was on the show. Don't
He was
remember
the news
any of
guy.
the
He was the news guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's all right. Well, never mind.
So anyway, so
We'll move
Wednesday,
on.
Wednesday will be fun.
We'll regroup. Yes, Wednesdays are going to be a blast for the rest of the year. I don't care if it's game night or not, but that Wednesday is going to be particularly raucous. And not to mention, that's a hell of a game. We got the Kings coming to town. You know, 2 of the last 3 Stanley Cup champions. L.A. and I still think the best goaltender on the planet, certainly the best American goaltender on the planet right now, in Jonathan Quick. And I still think that, for my money, I don't know that there's a defenseman league more fun to watch than Drew Doughty. I love watching. He does it all. I'm a huge fan.
He's fantastic, and he does what you need your number one guy to do. He scores. He's strong
got
in
an
the
edge.
defensive end. Yeah, he bangs bodies. He leads with his play. I wish that you would get a little more physicality out of Suter. I wish that you would get a little more attitude out of him.
Could he play those kind of minutes if he did, though? Could he play the minutes he plays if he got tougher? I don't know if he could.
And I think what you realize about Suter is he's just a phenomenal athlete. He does things that nobody can do, and I think a lot of us fall in love with the Shea Weber type, but I think a Ryan Suter type wins the cup before Shea Weber ever does, and they're locked into Shea Weber forever. We're locked into Ryan Suter here, and I can almost guarantee that we get a cup here before Nashville ever gets one.
Well, and I mean, you can't replace somebody that can give you the minutes that he can
Right.
give you. You might get a flashy defenseman, but that might only be good for 18 minutes a game, and instead of a guy that's going to give you 30-plus when you need it and when you hit overtime, especially in the playoffs when there is no shootout and, it could go 1, 2, 3 OTs, and this guy, is pushing, 40, 50-plus minutes. It's...
When he and Preece were up for free agency and everybody was, as July 1st approached, people were anticipating the possibility that they could both come here, and I was as well. But I was also thinking that if you do just get one, Suter was the one. I mean, a defenseman who gives you 30 minutes and plays in every conceivable situation. That he controls the game, and that is a more important. I think he's just a more vital player than Preece, and that's nothing against Preece. I just think that's a more valuable position.
In the way that the game is played in today's now,
In today's
yesterday's NHL, in today's NHL,
Instead of yesterday's then.
right? So,
Well put.
in
Or
today's-
tomorrow's.
Nice.
Never mind.
As I try to get it out, in today's NHL
try to reel it in if I were-
now, I just try to get it. If I don't, then I'm still okay.
Okay, well, let's get back to yesterday's now or tomorrow's then or
So
something.
in today's NHL now, it's about possession and it's about playing effective minutes. And when you get an opportunity to get a guy like that, you literally can't trade a top 2 defenseman and not give up 3 to 4 assets plus draft picks. I mean, you're completely committed. You look at the handling of PK Subban in Montreal. This is a guy that they didn't completely trust, so they had to give him a prove-it deal. And what he ended up with is he completely proved it. They had to give him $8-9 million a year, and they could have never gotten a return for him that matched up to his value to the team. And I think that's why David Poulet in Nashville was so butthurt over Ryan Suter.
He was butthurt?
He was
Such
so
a great
butthurt.
expression. Such a great expression.
Is that
That's
a
like
93X reference?
It's like a military
No,
law
butthurt. You've
enforcement.
never heard anybody else say
I've never
butthurt?
heard it.
That's a fairly common.
At first, I was hoping
it's,
he said
it's better
butter.
than a WKRP reference.
Please.
Or more popular, anyway.
He was so butthurt over losing Suter because
Jesus.
that's an asset that you can't replace.
Is that like saying he's chapped?
And then he uses asset with butthurt.
I think his emotions from deep down below
Da-da.
were so
Are
hurt
you
at
still
the
on this
core.
guy's ass?
Hurt.
I'm describing butthurt in general. I think I want to go.
Nobody
in
can describe it like you. Nobody's been there the way you have, Tony.
This butthurt moment brought to you by Tony D.
I cry in the basement. I'm married.
Jesus. This is not a Pulp Fiction moment, I hope.
I joined Jeff Dubay to talk about hockey because my wife allows me out of the house. What are we talking about here? That's reality.
If you're a butthurt kind of a guy, she might be asking you to leave the house. It's just a hunch. It's just to pack the bags.
It only happened once. It was romantic, sort of.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus. That went farther than I ever expected it to.
We're so in the ditch right now. We need 3 tow trucks.
Do we have a third spot?
No,
Can we put anything else out there right now?
We've got 15 minutes left, and we're going to make use of every last one of them. Guys, the upcoming road trip. They go to Ottawa, Montreal, and New Jersey. But between Montreal and New Jersey, they come home for a day and a half.
Correct.
We know Precy's not on the trip, but if he's feeling better, he could. Who knows? He could fly out in time to play for against Montreal. Who knows? Maybe when they come back, he joins them and goes to New Jersey.
Not just Parisi. I mean, any of them. I would say.
Do you think Precy's? Precy's dying to play against anybody. Do you think he's dying to play against New Jersey?
Well, of course. I mean, and they wanted it for the fanfare and just to elevate the whole intensity of bringing him back. Would that be the first time he's going back?
No,
he's already been back there. So
Yes.
I mean, it's not as
He didn't go
big
back
of a
the
deal.
first year. He went back the second.
It's not as big of a deal, but I mean, it could be him going on that road trip. It could be Spurgeon. I think equally as valuable, and that's a bold statement.
Well,
but I'd say that's
I'm
equally
with you.
as valuable to get either one of those players back.
And
in Ohio.
that's what we're just talking about. That's a comment on the
And
position.
Matt Cook. I mean, Matt Cook's out. He's not making the trip either. And so, I mean, even though
What happened to Cook?
There's another example of somebody who got hurt.
He's got a warrant in Ottawa.
Nobody talks about it.
No, I'm just
but I mean, they
What's
want to
funny
get.
is that's
They
kind of
want
unrealistic. Like,
They
that's
want
a
him back in the
slight
lineup.
possibility.
I mean, on that third line, he brings a presence. I mean, he brings he probably is on the fourth line actually, but fourth line, which by all looks and feels is the third line. But he brings something, and that is a void that when he's gone.
Sure.
And Matt Cook wasn't playing very well in his last couple of games, and they sat him down. I think it's a lower body. I think it affected his skating. A lot of his game is speed, getting in there, creating turnovers. Being chippy, being an agitator.
Same with Carter. I mean, Carter was out for a while too, and he finally just came back.
Sure.
I mean, it's a piece of the game that's missing when you don't have that style of player on the ice.
And Yo has to commit. He has to commit to some sort of third and fourth line. He wanted to play Kyle Brodziak on the third line. He wanted to play Ryan Carter on the fourth line. He was playing Howell on the fourth line to let him work back into it after taking that filthy elbow from John Moore, who can suck it.
Hey, he apologized.
Yeah, he can still suck it.
Oh, good for him.
And I think maybe Keith Ballard just can have the mumps for the whole season. Like
You're a dick.
I know. I know, man.
The guy might not have kids now, for God's sake. And you're gonna
Well,
put him.
he's still going to get paid. What are we talking about? He made all the money.
No, I'm just saying.
He's
when
got
a
no-
when
he's
a guy
got no
gets-
trade.
No, but when a guy gets mumps, all of a sudden he starts firing blanks. You don't have any sympathy for the guy. I mean, how's he going to procreate?
You're digressing again.
Yeah.
But again,
When you got a no trade,
it's a heartless human being over here.
I would say this. I would like to see what the lineups are going to look like for Ottawa and what they're eventually going to do in bringing Howell back to hey, Howell back.
proud of you.
That was good. I picked that up. Bring him back to the third line, and then either Brodziak goes back to the fourth, or maybe he needs to have another hiatus on the press box to build up his goal scoring and then come back for an encore.
Hey, when you look at the blue line, I mean, there's clearly more depth there than there's ever been, and there's more than I anticipated going into the season, going into camp. But now, Brodin's walking wounded. Spurgeon is not walking wounded. I mean, what do you do now? I mean, who do you really rely on? Because you can hide a fifth and a sixth. You can't hide a third and a fourth. So I mean, who are the next in line? I mean, Dumba and Follin already, or Folin, I should say.
Well, they're not in line. I mean, they were your fifth and sixth defenders.
But I'm saying, who's third and fourth now? I mean, who can you trust right now? I mean, Scandella's healthy, but I mean, you're really getting thin. I mean, with the injuries. If Spurgeon's out and Brodin is gimpy.
So you got Prosser, you have
dicey.
you have Ballard, and then you have Blum. I mean, Blum's in the mix.
That's dicey.
But I'm just saying, you have people that have played in the NHL. It's not like you're going down to your minor leagues and are getting somebody that's never seen an NHL game.
No, but I mean, you got to have guys out there with your. I mean, your third and fourth have to be.
You have Tony's buddy Stu. He can come up.
I mean, no, he's not. He's not invited.
These don't sound like good
It
third and
turns
fourth
out-
options to
It
me.
turns
They
out
sound
he's
like-
not invited.
I
They
think
sound like fifth and sixth.
I think Stu Biggle comes up on the third pair D, and I think he brings something.
Yeah,
I think he brings more than a Ballard brings, and I think he brings more than. Blum's probably safer. Prosser, I'm just not bought in on Prosser, but I mean, it is what it is.
If you look at it now, I think it's about the evolution of roles. So playing Folan with Scandella allows Scandella to go end to end, to activate a little more. Scandella can skate. We saw Scandella likes to join the rush. He plays with Spurgeon a lot, and he's complementary to Spurgeon. He allows Spurgeon to be the offensive D in that pair. Mm-hmm. So I think playing Folan there, I think Yo is kind of signaling to him that maybe it's time for you to step up and be a little bit more aggressive with your offense. And I'm okay with that. Scandella was a second-round pick. He was the previous administration with Risebrow. He's a guy that struggled a little bit with confidence and consistency. Last year, Scandella played most times at the end of the year more minutes than even Suter, and that's very. I think that's a vote of confidence from Yo, and Scandella. He needs to shoot the puck. He needs to be a little bit more both ends with his play, with Spurgeon out, with Brodeen hurting. You need to get offense out of Dumba. You need Prosser to fix it, man, because Prosser's been bad the last 2 games. And if you put Prosser in the press box, which I don't think that Yo will do because he trusts him more defensively, then the guy going in the press box now is Dumba, and he's going to go in the press box for Blum.
And that's a mistake.
And that's a mistake, I believe. But Blum's a guy who he was the Iowa Wild Man of the Year last year. He's a guy that.
Oh no, I'm not talking about Blum. I'm talking about like Prosser should be the one in the press box. Like out of all of them, I mean, I don't like the fact that he's back here. Period. And the only reason he's back here is because they brought him back before Dumba and Foligno both had great final preseason games and stuck with the roster. But that's the only reason he's here. And if you put him back on waivers, who knows? Maybe he doesn't go. Am I concerned about it? No. I mean,
but the knock on both of those guys, the knock on Dumba, the knock on Blum is their defensive end play. So you're going to pair both of those guys up. So maybe you bump Folan down to the third pair. You play Dumba with Scandella, and then you play.
Now you have 2 freewheelers though on the second line.
And you know, I mean, these are the things that Yo's going to have to. Yo knows best. He's going to have to come up with a solution. He's going to have to empower these guys. He's going to have to define for them what their roles are.
Well, and you can't put Dumba in the press box for more than a game, can you? Game or 2? I mean, otherwise you send him down. I mean, you got to keep him playing, don't you? Especially if you want to get better in the defensive end.
That's what I think. I mean, and they preach the fact that if he's not getting minutes, he's going to go to Iowa. So, I mean, you pair up and maybe take a risk. I mean, pair up somebody with Suter. The fact that Suter is, defensively responsible. You pair somebody up with, with Blum. He's more defensively responsible. You pair somebody up with Foligno because he's more defensively responsible. You have complemented defensemen for all three pairings right now, and you can send Prosser up to the press box.
All right, so you've got Ottawa, you got Montreal. Montreal's in a crazy 2-game slide right now where they're just getting done. And then New Jersey. So what does it take point wise for this to be a successful trip? Keeping in mind you're thin on the blue line, you might be without Parisi, then you're. I don't want to say you're limping out of town after the game last night, but you're not looking real strong.
I'll jump ahead to the third game because New Jersey's going to be on a back-to-back. So we get them on the second side of a back-to-back, which obviously I don't know what's going to happen, with Ottawa and Montreal. But if it's bad, at least we have the ability to maybe rally the troops when we come home, maybe get some fresh legs from some guys coming off injuries, and then we'll get a team that played the night prior. So, I mean, if nothing else, at least we're going to have that at the end of our, road trip.
It's hard to even call that the end of the road trip because they're going to come home and be home for a day and a half and then leave and go to New Jersey. So it's not like they'll be like on the road for a week.
But they don't play a home game, so I think it's a.
Well, I mean, technically it's a road trip, but I mean it's a road trip where they're going to come home for a day and a half before they go on the last leg.
Sure.
I mean, it makes it. In all honesty, sleeping in your bed, there's something to be said for it. Well, not necessarily your bed, since I've never slept in Scott Schweitz's bed. But in the greater,
nor have any Wild players that I know of.
But anyway.
CSI Scott Schweiss's bed. Dirty.
So anyway, you're taking the road trip, Tony.
And
Jesus.
I think so. This is our first trip into Canada too, right? So last year the Wild showed up in Montreal and they're super proud of themselves and they got the crap beat out of them, and they got beat
Montreal
really
looks
really
terrible
bad.
right now. God, they look bad right now.
And I think in Ottawa you're staring down the barrel of a franchise player that a lot of Wild fans were kind of hoping would end up here in Bobby Ryan if we didn't get Vanek, and they gave him all of the money. So we'll see if they can show up there, steal a win. I think you win in Ottawa. I think you win probably in Montreal more than New Jersey because I think New Jersey is going to defend their home ice. New Jersey has a lot of players. They have all of the Slovakian players in the entire NHL. They have. Are they Czechs?
Well, they don't have Gabrick. I mean, Gabrick's a Slovak.
No. Are they Czechs?
Whatever. Eastern Europeans don't want to play in November.
That's Czech.
So how are they even putting a team together?
So they have all the Czech players. They've cornered the market. They have Havlat. They have.
No, they must have cornered the market on cigarettes then in New Jersey.
Unbelievable.
Those Eastern Euros, they love to pound nails. They do.
And hangover beards, just unbelievable.
Yeah. And they don't like to go in November either. November, they just, it's like call me in March.
Although the Henry kid is my man fan crush. I think he is just a tremendous player. I think you need to go into Canada on this road trip. You need to get on the board. I mean, you're playing Carey Price. You're playing who is it? Craig Anderson in Ottawa.
Craig Anderson's man. I mean, Craig Anderson's okay, but Carey Price is. I mean, he's a real deal. But
sure.
And then you have Schneider when you go to. I mean, depending if Schneider plays the night before, maybe he won't.
Hey, as we wrap up our first show at Burger Mo's, guys, just a few minutes left here. What's jumping out at you league-wide right now, team-wise or individuals?
When we talked about the standings right now, we have the Penguins. The Penguins and the Lightning are 1 and 2 in the East. I mean, so we've faced both of them, and obviously in completely different circumstances and outcomes. But I mean, I think looking back on the West, you still have Anaheim, who is a strong force. One surprise right after Anaheim is Vancouver, which a lot of people probably thought that they'd be middle of the pack, but they've stepped up early in the season.
I'd like to look in division, just because the way that they realigned the NHL and the way that the playoffs work, I like to focus in division. Nashville is a team that I don't believe in, but they're playing really, really well right now, and they're getting contributions from kids who failed to launch a little bit.
Well, you mentioned the goaltending.
And the goaltending is a huge factor. When you have Pecorine, he covers the entire net, and he's playing well and stealing games for you. They have the Jones kid, who's Popeye Jones' kid. They have this Philippe Forsberg kid who they got in a trade for Martin Erat, and he's scoring now. He has evolved to an NHL player, and I think that's a lot of the reason that we're so proud of the Wild is that you have these young kids who are now like on the NHL stage, and if Nashville's kids graduate and they're successful, Nashville could be a team to watch out for, especially since you're in a division that's loaded.
If you look at our division, though, a couple nights ago, we were at the top of it, and now we are third from the bottom. I mean, there can be a swing in a
how
period
good is St. Louis right now? What have they won, 5 in a row?
Yeah, St. Louis has got 17 points, and they're leading our division.
They're on
but
fire.
I mean,
stole one from New York the other night.
And Winnipeg's above us now.
Bastards.
I mean, Winnipeg came out of the gates, and they were dead, and they got a couple shutouts, and now they've kind of turned things around, so they're above us. So, I mean, you're going to see a lot of different fluctuations of this division. And, at any given night, anybody could be either first, second, third, or, fourth, fifth, sixth.
So thanks to Burger Mo's for having us here. We're going to be here each Wednesday now for the rest of the Wild season. So, hockey fans, swing on by. Any Wednesday, 5 o'clock.
Bacon cheese tots.
I'm going to try them. I'm a brave man. I'm also not a proud man. I don't know who else to thank.
Pubcast is coming up. Mention that.
Oh, that's God. I forgot to mention all the other shows. Rusty Game B Review. RustyGameBReview.com. Pubcast is coming up tonight. Get to Shamrocks. They got the live music review. How could I forget? Get to Shamrocks. They got cheese. They got bacon cheese curds. I will put them up against your tots.
And they got Juicy Lucy.
Oh, they're good. They're so good.
Live and Social taking over West 7th.
See ya.